Hey there, welcome. Lotus Art of Sacred Embodiment, and we are talking today more about relational intimacy and higher love templates. So, welcome. Thanks for being here. If this is your cup of tea, welcome and have a couple sips. So, we're going to talk again using the twin flame model and those templates as a model for what we're all capable of and what we're being called towards as we move through this awakening, ascension process and our own spiritual evolution and mastery. So if this is stuff that you like, then subscribe and like if you haven't. And let's go ahead and dive in. You'll notice that if you've been following me on this channel for a while, I'm switching the tune a little bit to more relational things. And I am still talking about more of the wider scope of awakening and ascension and the natural cycles and those focal points over on my Patreon page. So you are welcome to jump over there if you'd like. But this is what I'm being called to move into as we all grow and evolve and change, right? So does our purpose, so does our blueprint, so does what it is that that our inner purpose is here to create as service. So this is part of why it's changed so much. All right, so let's take a look-see at a couple of the notes that I've made. So there's the 2 points that I want to bring in, and that is that not everyone is going to have the twin flame coding or the twin soul coding or that inner marriage coding. And that is the foundation that I teach from is the inner marriage and inner alchemy that then blooms into the right aligned divine love relationship, sacred union on this physical plane. And how we can all up level and upgrade our relational intimacy IQ. Because humanity, as we've known it, has not, we just haven't known. We haven't had the skills, we haven't had the awareness, we haven't had the personal development, we haven't come home to ourselves enough in the past to really embody these next phases. But this is where we're at, and it's beautiful and fabulous and exciting. So I want to talk about the coding, and then we're going to talk about the next evolutionary steps. And I want to break this down into practical terms so it's something that we can all relate to. Now, these notes that I have are actually notes that I found really resonant from I can't remember. It's the Magdalene Mysteries by Ozra and Saren Bertrand. And Dr. Bertrand is also the founder of Biomancy University. So one of the things that is being mentioned here is that the twin or twin soul template carries the coding that we are no longer limited by our wounding. Instead, anything is possible within the universal fabric of love. That what we are working with is love longing for love. Love that is longing to merge, unite, and dissolve, and then rebirth into more love. And that higher love is the power to change the world. So let's break that down a little bit in the way that I understand that to my own journey, and what I recognize in other people who are walking this more inner path and this inner alchemy. So we talk in phases and stages for us all to gauge where we're at and what is unfolding and how we are personally unfolding in our right and true timing. Okay? So in the past, and even presently, what we have known is our relationships are brought together through the karmic phases through our wounding. Doesn't mean that they're horrible all the time, but what it does mean is that we're brought together in order to heal. And if we don't understand that that's why we're together and that we can reclaim our own power for our healing, right? For our growth and evolution, then it feels very dramatic and messy and painful. And that is the old way. And then we make commitments, we make vows, we come into marriages where we pledge till death do us part, because that is relevant in the higher constructs, right? That marital blueprint has a mystical expression, which is what that was before it became mandated, so to speak, in a secular understanding. When we come into marriage, and if we stay in marriages long term, we are no longer the same person that made our commitments and vows 10, 20, 30 years later. Now, we might remain the same person in order to maintain the status quo. It's like an unspoken contract between two partners to not push too far outside the bounds, not change and grow too much, not rock the boat too much, because then that threatens the commitment and the pact of a marriage. And what this does then is it stifles the evolutionary growth and maturity of both people involved. It creates a bond not through maybe that initial love where we were aligned, where we were meant to be at that time, and that commitment did and was most likely real. We're looking at it from a healthier standpoint, and then we've grown and we've changed together, and then there's might be a plateau. And that plateau might become just what is, right? So we fall into complacency, we fall into familiarity, we fall into recognition that we would be breaking our vows, we would be, making a sin, we would be creating family turmoil, so to speak, right? If we were to get a divorce. It's not quite as heinous as it was in generations past, but I think that there's still the remnants of that. It just isn't okay. So then a stage might be that both people recognize that they're at a stalemate and we want to grow and we want to change. And hopefully that means that, we can go to counseling, we can find a way to make things work. So then it shifts from the karmic into a little bit more of a conscious relationship. Now, it can go two ways. We can find the ways in which we can come together, and maybe our life path, our life journey is to remain at a certain level, and that is the right and true alignment. And that's one fork, right? So then we stay together, it's gotten better, we're fond of one another, we have a lovely friendship, we have family, and we have friends, we have other areas that really fulfill and uplift us individually, that allow that coupledom to be fine. And maybe we're not really equipped to take a leap into larger changes, particularly later in life. That can get harder, the and I think it doesn't have to get harder, but I think that the thought forms make it harder. If you're in your 50s and you're in your 60s and starting over again, or even in your 70s, like, it feels daunting, it feels scary, it feels like there's so much life then, so much history, that our identity has become that history, whether it is serving us or not. So everybody needs to come to their own realizations of what that is and what they truly want and what they have the gumption for and the fortitude or even the blueprint for. So the track that I'm referring to then are those who come to realize that I need more. I need to grow more. I need to come into more of myself. And perhaps our elemental configuration makes that difficult to do. Perhaps our ideologies have changed and they can't find a harmonious common ground alignment, or the kids have now, left the nest, or retirement has taken place, and we recognize that when we're, we aren't who we were, but we aren't really who we're feeling like we need to be, and it's we can't grow in and of ourselves in the energetic dynamic that exists. And so both people hopefully can begin to realize that I am now ready to move and to grow into new. So this is part of what is being said here. The coding in the past was limitation and wounding. We stay till death do us part, no matter what, because that is the system that we have stepped into, that we've made this commitment to. And commitment, commitment and devotion might get confused with obligation, right? I don't believe, and everybody gets to answer this for themselves. From my point of view, I don't want somebody to stay with me out of obligation. I want them to be with me because they love me, they adore me, right? We're happy together, it's fulfilling, and they are happy. And vice versa. I don't think anybody wants to be stayed in relation. Is that even a word? Stayed in relationship? Whatever. You get what I mean. Remain in a relationship because I'm obligated to them. Both people deserve more. Both people deserve to be truly, truly loved and valued and adored and seen and held, and want what is for the highest good for the other. Obligation tends to have a fear base to it. And when we're staying together out of fear, we won't flourish. In all different areas, we won't flourish, because relationship, the relational intimacy, is really, I'm not going to go off in this tangent, But what I want to say is right-aligned relationships support the flourishing for both people in both areas of their life. And it supports that flourishing even at the potential expense of the relationship. Okay, so we'll maybe circle back to that. So the wounding and the fears and the insecurities and the doubts and the stories of, I don't want to be abandoned, I don't want to abandon, I don't want to be rejected, I don't want to reject, I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to hurt. These all create unconscious patterns and fears where we are not living as the true essence of who we are, and we aren't growing into even knowing that essence, because we're compromising not in healthy and holy ways, but we're compromising out of fear and guilt and maybe even shame or doubt or dishonesty, or you get what I'm saying. That's all wounding. And when a relationship is built on wounding, it might look good on paper, right? It might look good when we're trying to create a stable environment for raising children. But even that, energetically, things are not only physical, right? Even that creates ripples of information and distortion to anybody in the field. Okay? So the love that we are all programmed for on a deep level, the love in the right and true way, right? We are all love. But first we know our love by seeking love outwardly, receiving love inwardly, growing in the different expressions of love, and then becoming love. And that becoming love is part of the inner union and is part and parcel with right aligned receptivity and sharing. The sharing and reception of love from self-honor, self-love, holy wholeness of our own beingness. That we are cups runneth over, so to speak, and that we know ourselves enough to know when our cups are not running over. But that longing for love is longing essentially for that wholeness. It is that longing for the other right aligned half, and it ultimately is that longing for the big love, the agape of returning back to source. So the twin flame and twin soul journey, once you get on that path, it cannot be separated from connecting with the divine. Connecting with the love of the divine. And again, the divine, God, life, love, it's going to show up in different ways. There isn't one way, that we come home to God, which in a biblical sense, it's not limited to that. We know when we're home, right? It might be the sunrise or sunset. It might be certain music that puts you into your right aligned signature, your true essence. It might be the leaves through the trees, the breeze through the leaves of the trees, right? It might be the breeze as it caresses our own face. It might be, our guides assisting us. For me, it's all very much guided within the Trinity of Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Yeshua or Jesus, right? Plus my galactic team. Like they guide me into the higher connection with the divine. So we all are going to have our flavor of that. But the higher love templates cannot be separated from that union or that longing, not just for our person, but for coming together with our person in that bigger field. And that's not the initial phases and stages, but that is the higher developmental phases and stages as we move along that trajectory. So it is that love, it is that divine love, it is that higher love that we connect with as humans. It is our divine humanity. It is when we are set free in our heart, because now we know that we are safe to love. That we aren't ever rejected or rejecting. That's just a storyline. We aren't ever really abandoned or abandoning. That's a storyline. Now, from one level of consciousness, that's very real. Most of us have abandonment templates, that carry loss, that carry rejection, that carry feeling unlovable and unworthy. But as we do our own inner healing, we recognize that it's only us who can abandon us. And that is part of the, let's just say, the lower level design and the very base level understanding and functioning of those lower center consciousness when they're still in wounding. So I'm not going to keep going on to that. I think you know what I mean. So it is when we can elevate and expand and know that we're always held by something so much bigger, that we start gaining the power of love, which is true power. Now, so, it goes on to talk about then, and I'm going to skip the part where the quantum physics meets the ancient wisdom of this. But we're going to talk about the next evolutionary step of humanity, okay, is spiritual, biological, and cultural. And it is built on the foundation of the healing the split between the masculine and the feminine. So when we're working with inner union, when we're working with inner marriage, alchemical union, we are working with our own inner masculine and feminine. This process heals our own inner separation, and then allows us to come into partnership from those healed and whole perspectives. So this is important for our entire world, right? We've got so many distortions around masculine, feminine, that doesn't even mean gender, that just means energetic, elemental expressions, polarities, and beyond that. Okay, so that's a thing in and of itself. So the twin template, so those of us who carry the twin coding, we're doing this work in order to, yes, to come into our divine union, yes, to come into our highest love and partnership. But it's more than that. We are doing the inner healing to heal the collective. The more of us that do this inner healing, from this particular perspective and embody it in these templates, we create a collective in and of ourselves, right? A collective consciousness of this understanding, of this healed awareness, of this balanced embodiment. And then that starts to create a new foundation. Now, this is bridging, right? So this is a bridge for all of humanity to access this next octave of relational intimacy, higher love, true love, partnerships. And I like the way that they talk about it. They say like this next octave of at one-ment. So this is a part and parcel of the larger divine union. The sacred unions, the sacred marriages is a part of the bigger divine union, because the sacred marriages, those people are whole and connected to the divine, whatever that shows up in themselves. And they're choosing the signature. Okay, so we know when we're in coherence because everything is at peace. So what happens with the twins when they're not in connection is, and sometimes they don't even know that this is what's happening, right? There's those moments, there are those snippets of time when they feel, wow, deep peace, deep love, deep connection. And they're home. And that home feeling happens either when they're home in connection with the divine and or when their counterpart, it could be miles away, it could be on the other side of the world, when their counterpart is open at the same time they're open to receive, where both are in coherence and their energy comes together and they sync. And it is a profound experience. They're home. The love is big, the love is true, and they feel deeply connected. Maybe they know who their person is, and they feel deeply connected to their person, or they feel deeply connected to all of life. Right? And that's a point of resonance. And so the work of the twin then is to cultivate their life, to continue to hold that resonance, that level of peace, that level of harmony, that level of yes, this is home, this is right, this is deeply aligned. And allow that frequency to build within them. And then that begins to draw everything that is in their alignment to them. Now, if you don't have that coding, but you're still seeking higher level relationships, you're seeking to move from conscious relationship into sacred union, then it's the same. It's this harmonizing within you. And it is cultivating that frequency that is love. And keep choosing those things that bring you to that, right? You cultivate that reality within. And let life move you and grow you and evolve you and mature you in all of the ways that maybe you can't necessarily do when you're only in like one part of you. Because the more that our frequency up levels each time, more things will be shown that are not aligned for us, right? Maybe it's behaviors, thought forms. Maybe it's people, places, things, right? And then we know what the radar is. We know what that signature to choose, and so we have no choice but to choose those things that are in that highest alignment. Now, we can't necessarily find that signature. This is a generalization, and there's a lot of, subtleties and nuances here. So I'm not making a sweeping, absolute statement. However, if you're in a relationship that has plateaued, or where you are not, or neither of you are able to really find your center, and you no longer necessarily feel aligned, and you've done the work and you can't really align, but you don't want to leave because of all of the lower, programming, it's going to be very challenging to find your homing heart. It's like when E.T., right, he sends out the heart light. But we have to find our heart light. And that is going to be sparked by something much deeper and bigger that we have to listen to, because if we don't listen to it, that light won't get stronger to guide us. So we want to activate that heart light and follow that heart light. And sometimes that heart light means we have to break out of the preconditioned mold of what relationships have been, and start to allow a new template to enter in, a whole new way of understanding. But it's going to start from coming home to us. So I'm going to end it with this last statement that they use. So the twins are gateways to the feeling/knowing, not thinking, the knowing, the embodied knowing, that we are all twinned, and that all that is connected in love. And when we're looking at the union templates, we have the masculine, feminine, the heavenly father, the earthly mother, right? The holy father through the heart, the holy mother through the womb. We have organs that are twin organs. The heart, womb are twinned. The pancreas, spleen are twinned. Our lungs are twinned. Our right, left hemispheres are twinned. Right? Look at, like, we're in pairs. We are made up of twins in polar opposites. We are made up of relational intimacy. Human beings are relational beings. We are one with all that is above and below, before and past, within and without. So when we're working with the templates of twinning, we see that we all have access to this. But the center point is the union. And it's the center point of the divine within us, where we are all ultimately going, that allows us to unify and no longer polarize all of life. All right, I'm going to end this right here. So thank you. I hope this resonated, and let me know if it does, because I'm curious what your experiences are of this, and what your questions are, or what your maybe, maybe not. So let me know in the comments below. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to sharing with you again. Blessings.